Hey folks, I'm Chris, and this is Short Pours. Today, I'm going to take you behind the scenes as I speak with Gordon, founder and distiller at Odd Society Spirits. I met Gordon a few months ago, and in fact had the pleasure of trying this bottle of whiskey here a few days before it was even released. The story behind it really piqued my interest, so we sent a few messages back and forth, and here we are months later, finally connecting for a proper interview about how he pushes the boundaries to get around some of the strict BC craft distilling policies. You'll want to hear all about how he does it. Odd Society is a small batch craft distillery in Vancouver, British Columbia, who is dedicated to combining old world distilling traditions with new world ingredients. Their goal? To create spirits that entice and intrigue, or as Gordon puts it, refined rebellion. I would say they certainly accomplished that with this bottle of Smoke and Oak. But you don't want to hear from me, so let's get going and hear from Gordon directly. Well, why don't you start by introducing yourself a little bit, your name, who Odd Society is, and what you do.
We're a small craft distillery located in Vancouver, British Columbia. We've been around for just over 10 years. This is our 11th year. We're excited to celebrate 10 years last year. We opened, kind of fitting with our name, we kind of opened on Halloween 2013. So
cool. I actually just opened the Boneyard, which was part of your 10-year celebration, right?
Yes.
So yeah, great bottle, that one.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a lot of what we do. It's sort of wild and wacky. It's a little bit of everything we've ever done. So from every bottling, we save a couple liters, put it in the Boneyard barrel.
Fun. Yeah. And you don't really know what you're going to get till
you don't know what we get. But we do taste it from time to time, and then so there are ups and downs, and we kind of go, okay, now would be a good time or not. Or too much rye in there now or whatever.
So too much maple, too much.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. What we got here in front of us, Smoke and Oak, which I'm very excited to taste, and I've tried it once before. But I'd love to hear the story behind it. What was the idea going into this bottle?
So with Smoke and Oak, we want to incorporate like the Scottish tradition of smoking malts with peat. In Scotland, they have different peated malts where the malt is smoked with peat in the final stage of the malting process. So we wanted to incorporate that, but instead use local woods or different types of wood to smoke the malt and introduce more smokiness and see where that leads us and compare different smokes. And so this latest is Garry Oak, Garryana Oak.
And Garry Oak is, correct me if I'm wrong, the only native oak to British Columbia.
Yes.
And it has quite an interesting sort of biodiversity, unlike those traditional large, tall, sturdy oaks. It's a bit meandering and sort of craggy looking almost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them in BC, it's actually, we don't have a lot in BC. Most of it's on like Vancouver Island, some of the Gulf Islands. Beacon Hill Park has a whole bunch of them there. It's like, they're super beautiful. So we thought, that would just be a natural one for us because, of course, where we are and something that you can't find everywhere. So it's always nice to have a niche and say, hey, this is really local. You can only get this here or the Pacific Northwest.
That's right. If you want to taste the Pacific Northwest, it's Garry Oak.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty special tree.
But obviously, there's some complications trying to make it. Garry Oak is protected in BC, right?
Yeah, so that's a huge one. So Garry Oak is protected. However, it's much more abundant in Washington and Oregon. So we actually, for our Garry Oak whiskey, we that's where we got the oak is from Washington.
Cool.
Yeah, and we worked with a local malting company there. They're called Skagit Valley Malting, and sadly they've recently closed, and we're just sort of devastated because they were the most amazing company. I could phone them up with any idea that I had and say, hey, for example, we just got some burn spot peat. Can I send you the peat? And they had a small a pilot system where they could do, a few hundred bags of malt instead of, a normal couple pallets of malt. And so I could just send them anything and they would do it for us.
Cool. Yeah. Well, it's too bad that they're...
Yeah, and hoping someone will start it up again, and continue. But we did get it, and we do have a lot of stuff in barrels still from them,
Cool. So you obtained the Garry Oak down in Washington.
Yeah.
Obviously, the BC craft regulations or policies say you have to use 100% BC ingredients. So how does that process work?
Joel was working hard in the back. He and I were standing in front of our stills one day, and we were lamenting the fact that we can't use peat because no one does peated malt in the province. And so, but our whiskey still is also a gin still. So Joel said it was his idea. He said, hey, what if we put the smoked malt, the peated malt in the gin basket, ran it through the way we make gin, and then throw the malt away. So we haven't used the malt. And the idea was born, we tested it, and we've done a lot with it since. So it's worked out really well.
Very cool. A little rebellious too.
Yeah, totally, a little rebellious, yeah. So it's funny you mentioned the word rebellious. Our, what is it? Our brand essence, they called it. Way back when our company created, we worked with a company and they said, okay, well, you need a brand essence. So our brand essence turned out to be refined rebellion. And actually, refined rebellion. So, and actually it's been perfect because we really do try to embody that, where we want to make good whiskeys, refined whiskeys with something new added, with something different. And so that, refined rebellion, it has worked for us.
I'd say that's definitely the case with this one, right? It's something new, a little bit different, a little bit rebellious in how you come across the process. And so what is the sort of mash bill? How long was this aged? What was it aged in?
It's 100% malted barley, and our barley comes, it's grown in Prince George and malted in Armstrong. So it's 100% malted barley, and then it's aged for 4 years. This one's just over 4 years in American white oak.
Okay. So when people drink this, what do you want them to be thinking or feeling?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. I think since there's nothing quite comparable that you can compare it to, it's just a new whiskey experience and looking for the smokes. And what's fun is with this smoke series, it's working out the way you want because the Garryana Oak, the smoked malt, is different from another local one is big leaf maple, and so we have some big leaf maple, and it's very different from the big leaf maple, and we have the arbutus, and it's very different from the arbutus smoked malt. So you can sort of work your way through that. As you would think, every smoke is different. None of smokes are created equal. So
yeah, of course. Going back to that idea of refined rebellion and doing something, a bit different. Why is that important to you?
It's about being creative, and we want to be creative. But it's also, as kind of, if you look at it from a business point of view too, is that there's so many amazing whiskeys out there. Honestly, like in Scotland, I studied in Scotland, there's phenomenal whiskeys. There's, in the US, there's just great whiskeys everywhere and a lot of new stuff coming out. So I think it's really important to find kind of your way and find a niche for yourself and try and create something that's a little bit different. It's a great whiskey, but it also speaks to where we're from and what we do. And I think it's important to try and find our little niche. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Well, should we give it a pour? Tell me what I should be tasting. Yeah.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers. Yeah, so you get that sort of more campfire smokiness. It's not like a peaty smokiness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very faint on the nose.
Yeah.
The smoke. But it picks up more on the palate.
Yeah, and then as you drink,
Very,
sort of
very,
builds up.
very woody, right? Like
Yeah.
fresh wood.
Like a fresh wood. And then some of the fun ones is like, sarsaparilla, sassafras.
Yes.
That comes like root beery kind of flavor.
I definitely get
And the mace, we've had, like cocoa powder.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And, like someone was reminded them of a certain biscuit, graham crackery kind of thing they had when they were a kid or something like that.
Well, it's also those like associations. Like you get that light campfire smell, almost like smoke on your shirt the day after a campfire.
Right, yeah.
And then you're probably thinking about like the s'mores, the graham crackers, and
and your camping experience right there associating that with that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that oak definitely picks up on the palate, but it's like a new, fresh oak instead of something really dark and aged. I am getting that root beer, I think.
Yeah. There is that, and it's
And a bit of citrus.
There's and there's also like
Lemon.
There's a sweetness. There's and sort of all of our whiskeys have sort of a viscosity to them. There's sort of a rich mouthfeel that comes.
Yeah, that's right. Oily.
Yeah. It's just part of everything we do. Which is nice, which makes it goes down really smooth and yeah.
So what do you enjoy most about this bottle?
I just like where it's from, what it does. I like there's a smoothness, there's a richness, and I do enjoy smoky whiskeys. There's a certain nuance there that makes it fun. Yeah.
Anything else you think people should know about On Society or about the fun different stuff you're doing? What's your favorite part about being a distiller?
So I just think it's fun to try new things. In general, I just think it's pretty special that we get to play with, ideas and formulas that have been around forever. I take traditional 100% malted barley, Scotch style, and then create something new with it. And I think that's sort of the pleasure and having fun ideas and seeing them come to fruition.
Yeah. Fun. Well, we definitely enjoy tasting those experiments and things that come out of it. So
awesome. Yeah.
Keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome.
Enjoy it.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.